Have you ever hooked up to a vehicle and had no communication with any module? Or this is what your topology looked like?
Nuts and bolts with Tone here, guys, and today I have a 2014 F350 with the 6.7 Powerstroke with 190,000 miles. Concern is that all the warning lights are on, it has a lack of power, and the transmission does not shift well. So upon arrival, I scan it, I get a ton of codes. Before I can even write down the codes, I lose communication with all modules. Now we're going to go through and test this CAN system. Now the interesting thing is that the truck still starts, but I have no communication with any module. So we're gonna go through this and test and figure out what's going on.
When I first hooked up to the truck, this is what the topology looked like. The top is the high-speed CAN, and the bottom is the M CAN. Before I could write down all the codes, this is what happened to my topology. Now you can see the high-speed CAN on top is all blank. That means I have no communication with any of those modules. The bottom is the M CAN. I had communication with all of those modules.
So the first thing that I notice when I'm testing this thing is that when I have a scan tool hooked up, if I have communication, great. But if I leave the key on for too long, all of a sudden the IPC goes black. The touchscreen radio turns off, turns back on, turns off, turns back on. And so now I'm in the process of testing this CAN system. Now when I first test it, the CAN system is good if I walk up to the truck and I don't turn the key on. Let me show you what that looks like. So now to test a CAN system, the first test you're going to do is you're going to test pin 6 and 14. So now when you have this triangle type like this, where the taper is like that, this first top pin is number 1. It goes over to 8 and then 9 to 16. Now you got to count over to 6, and the one right below it is 14. Now, you don't want to stick leads inside this because then you're going to have terminal connection issues. So what you want is you want a breakout box. Now, a good breakout box is going to have, this is the one that I recommend, something similar to this. This is from AES Wave. Now, what I like about this is that your leads, they plug in, and there's no wiggle, there's no nothing. As long as your leads are good, then your reading is going to be good. So what you do is you're going to plug one end in to the DLC like that. Then you can have your scan tool plugged in to this additional lead. So you can leave your scan tool connected. I got my top down connected. And you can test everything through this right here. Now this is nice because pin 4 and 5 are chassis ground. And since there's a nice bright green light, you know we have a good ground. You can test it, but we have a good ground. It's very bright. And this red light, which is pin 16, is positive. That's B positive voltage, and we know that that's good because we have a very bright light. So what you're going to do, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to hook up to pin 6 and 14. This is CAN high and CAN low. And you're going to look at your ohms reading. You should have 60 ohms. Now, I've got a whole bunch of stuff disconnected on this CAN system, and I only have 33 ohms. So we definitely have a problem here. But before I disconnected anything, when I first got to the vehicle, I plugged in here, and I have 60 ohms. As soon as I turn the key on and the IPC drops, then this goes to like mega ohms, thousands of ohms, and mega ohms and thousands of ohms. It jumps all over the place. We have extremely high resistance. So now you can see that we have 33 ohms, supposed to have 60. Now let's take a look at what I've done. So I have the IPC out. I've got the trailer brake module, the trailer brake control module disconnected. I've got the APIM out. I disconnected the BCM, confirmed that that's not the problem. However, I'll talk about that in a second. I have disconnected the steering control module. I have disconnected the parking aid module under the dash. And I tried the ABS before, but that was before when it was here. I did some quick tests, and then he had to bring it back this week. So now I'm going to figure out why we only have 33 ohms, and we're supposed to have 60. So here's what the CAN system looks like. So we have the high-speed CAN and high-speed CAN. You also have an iCAN, and you have an MS CAN. So the high-speed CAN has a transfer case control module, trailer brake control module, the AHCM, the transmission control module, the PCM, the restraints control module, ABS, parking aid module, steering control module, and IPC. Now the IPC is also has a terminating resistor for the ICAN. That has the FCIM, the DSP, the ACM. Come over here, to the APIM. The APIM is also the other side. So I have the trailer brake control module disconnected. I've disconnected the BCM. I've disconnected the TCM. I have the APIM out. I've disconnected the PCM, the parking aid module, the steering control module. The IPC is out, and I need to redo the ABS. I did that last week when I was testing it in a different way. Now you'll also see you have a terminating resistor in the BCM. You have a terminating resistor in the APIM. No, I'm sorry, not the APIM. The terminating resistors are, sorry, I'm looking at this through my phone. So on the CAN side, the BCM has the terminating resistor. The PCM has the other terminating resistor. So you have 120 ohms, 120 ohms in each resistor. When they're connected and everything's working, you should have 60 ohms. Now you go up to the ICAN. The ICAN has a terminating resistor in the IPC and also the ACM. And that's what gives that 60 ohms, 120, 120. Come on down to the SCAN, and the BCM is the terminating resistor in the MS CAN, and the other terminating resistor is in the HVAC. That gives this 60 ohms. We're testing it at the DLC here. Now, here is information. Now, this is really hard to get. I couldn't get this in all data. I had to go to Mitchell, and actually my service manager actually found this. I couldn't find it. So this gives you every module and what CAN they are and if they're terminating or not. So this has the APIM, and this tells you that it's a high-speed CAN and an MS CAN and the ICAN, and none of them are terminating. So you can go through this list, and basically this list is just interpreting this data right there. Now, one thing I need to look into is this connector right here. If the customer did a bunch of troubleshooting, you can see he cut open a whole bunch of wiring. And if he slightly disconnects this connector, just pulls it back just a little bit, he actually has shifting. He can shift normal. He doesn't have a lack of power. With this connected, lack of power, and when I put this thing in gear, like it clunks and grunts and groans and barely moves. All right, so I connected the trailer brake control module. Have not turned the key on or anything. Still had 33 ohms. All right, that's connected. The next thing was the APIM. Now, this was my initial suspect. Found something online that said these are common to fail, and so I connected. This has been disconnected. This was the first thing I disconnected, aside from the PCM and the TCM. So I connect the connector here, and now you can see that now I have 3,000 ohms of resistance on the CAN system. So this APIM makes a huge difference. Now the weird thing is, this APIM here does not have a terminating resistor in it. It just comes right over here. The terminating resistor is in the PCM and the BCM. So something happens when I disconnect this. Now, I have not started the truck. I have not turned the key on. This is first thing in the morning after I have all of this stuff disconnected. I was just trying to get back my ohm reading on the CAN system. So now I'm going to disconnect the APIM and see what happens. So I know the APIM is bad. That has failed. I'm going to leave that disconnected. We're going to reverse, plug everything back in, and see if we can get a change. So the next step is the IPC. I always suspected this just because the screen went black, and that's when I lost communication, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this, and we'll watch that resistance reading right there. All right. So we got 6 more ohms with the IPC connected. So plugged in the IPC, left the IPM disconnected. Still only had 39 ohms. So now the high speed can has 2.9 volts. It's supposed to have around 2.5. The low speed can has 2 volts. And let's take a look. All right, so this is the high-speed can right there. So you can see that we have like ABS, APIM, DSP, of all those modules, and we have no communication on the high-speed can. With the M can, we have communication. The global link position module, the HVAC, the driver seat module, the DCSM. So now we got to figure out why we still have no communication with this high-speed can. Back to disconnecting modules. All right, so now we know we don't have any communication on the high-speed can, so I want to see what happens. So I turn the key off. It's very important you turn the key off every time you do this test right here. So now we have 42 ohms on the high-speed can. So one of the terminating resistors is in the PCM here, so I got the connector disconnected here. All right, PCM disconnected, there's no change in our network, and our IPC is still down. All right, disconnected the ABS module, and now I got my IPC back. So IPC is back. High-speed can is reading 1.9. Oh. BCM is communicating now. FCIM. All right. I think we might have found the problem. I think we had 2 problems. I think we had a bad ABS module and a bad APIM. Look at that. Network is back. The only thing disconnected is the ABS module and the APIM. Now, all right, so there's going to be a lot of codes. All right, so now we're going to go. And man, I love the topology of this. This is the Phoenix Lite 3. We have the Phoenix Max, Big Daddy. Oh, I thought it said it on there. Oh yeah, Phoenix Max right here. I was going to use this and scope the voltage of the CAN network, but never got to that because I was doing resistance. So now, what I love about this is this topology is fantastic. I mean, look at this. I mean, the only can that it's not showing is there's an iCan. And I mean, I think there's 1 or 2 modules that it's saying is on the high-speed can that's not. But I mean, look at this. I mean, pin 3 and 11. We know that that's this M can. 6 and 14, all those modules. Tells you normal, abnormal, scanned, not equipped. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clear the DDCs, because modules hold codes, and a lot of times even disconnecting the battery does not clear the codes in some vehicles. Mercedes, BMW, things like that, they do not, absolutely do not clear codes by disconnecting the battery. So now you can see we have 5 codes. So now we're going to go to diagnostic plan, and what do we have? All right, we are missing communication. The FCIM is missing communication with the front controls display interface module. That's the APIM. We're going to go to the IPC. We're missing communication with the ECM, with the PCM. Lost communication with the ABS. Lost communication with the ABS, and 4-wheel drive error. So now let's see if we can go into the PCM. Looking at this through my phone, it's super difficult to try to find stuff. But this is pretty awesome. We figured out the problem. We had two problems. Hopefully the PCM communicates. All right, look at that. All right, read fault code. We're gonna go to continuous memory DTCs. All right, lost communication with the ABS. Gonna get out of that. And we're gonna get out of that. And we're gonna go to data stream. So when you have an issue like this, you want to do a little more than just check codes, because sometimes it'll check codes, but it won't check a data stream. Kind of weird, but anytime you're dealing with communication issues, you always want to make a couple selections. We're just going to select all. All right, and there we go. So there's all of our codes. All of our data. And here we are. I'm not sure why the IPC is saying it lost communication with the PCM, because so we just cleared the codes. It's still saying it lost communication with the PCM. Not real sure why it's giving us that code, but hey, we have got the IPC, communication, and we got our network back. So now that's the high-speed can. And then there's the low-speed can, 1.4. So this is what the CAN system looks like when it's communicating. This is my first time using this scope, so I'm having trouble figuring out how to set it up. But looks kind of cool. You can see how they kind of operate off of each other. Truck's running. We still have the IPC. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and plug the API in back in and see if we lose everything. And make sure it's not just the ABS. I disconnected the ABS last week and there was no change. So I don't suspect there to be a change when I plug in the API in. Plug the API in back in and nothing's happening with it. We're still communicating here. Oh, there we go. Starting to turn on. Still have my IPC. Let's do a smart scan. High speed can still communicating. And low speed. There we go. So we're gonna have to clear the code in the front control interface module. It's loading up now. All right, let's check out our diagnostic plan here. Now let's go back. Let's go ahead and clear the codes. And let's see what happens. So the IPC is still saying it can't communicate with the PCM. And looks like we got, all right, so we got the IPC can't communicate with the ECM. Now that very well could just be that because the ABS is disconnected. And then we also have a trailer brake control module code and a transfer case control module code. All right, so these are going to be because the ABS is disconnected because of the way that the network talks to each other. So it looks like we just have a bad ABS module. Now let me tell you what happened and how this happened. So I get the truck and I scan it. It has like a gazillion codes in it. And I'm going through my troubleshooting. I disconnected the the TCM, I disconnected the ABS module, and I had no change. And then after I did all of that, I didn't realize that the customer had disconnected a connector, the one I showed you before. So this is what happened, and this is why I lost my a lot of frustration, was that this connector was backed off. Because this connector was backed off, it caused me to have a lot of codes. And it also led to, when I disconnected the ABS module, there was no change to the network because that connector was disconnected. So I had to jump through hoops, all because they had disconnected that connector. Connector's connected, ABS module is disconnected, we have communication, everything is working. It needs an ABS module. So now we have 75 ohms. We should have 60, but the ABS module is disconnected, so I think that has something to do with it. But anyways, close to 60 there, 77. We have communication with everything. So, and here we are on pin 6 and 14. Checking it there. I also have a scan tool hooked up, so. All right, got our ABS module. But before we can do this, it's a few steps we need to do. Step 1, you need to put a battery maintainer on the battery. Step 2, we had to plug back in the ABS module. Now, why do we have to do that? Well, we have to come in here and we have to go in with the Ford IDS and we need to tell it that we are going to be replacing the ABS module. Hopefully the ABS module is not so corrupted that we can't pull the data off of the ABS module. ABS modules are a pain because if you can't get the data off of them, then you need to go to Ford and get the as-built data. So I'm going to load this up and hopefully it doesn't mess everything up. So far, the IPC hasn't dropped out, so that's good. So we're going to load this up. All right, guy had to take the tune off of here so we could do this. So you're going to go to module programming. Then we're going to go to programmable module installation, ABS. And then if all goes right, this pulls all the data off of the ABS module. Double check your VIN. I've never had it be wrong except for when someone had the wrong VIN. So now this should pull all the data off the ABS module. And then it's going to say, now go ahead and replace your ABS module. And then when you're done, you come back to it and then you continue. And then it takes all that info, all the as-built data, and puts it on the module, on the new module. You're going to let that load. Very important that you pay attention to the instructions. So turn the ignition switch off. Okay, now install new module in vehicle. You're going to need a T20. Carbine Tools makes great Torx bits. Here's what the inside of the ABS module looks like. So you're going to have 4 screws, 1 on each corner. And there's your connector. All right, then once we get the module in, go ahead and hit OK. Then you're going to follow all the prompts. Turn the key on. Now it's going to configure the module. Module installation complete. Right there. All right, now since we have the ABS module disconnected, we need to go through here. We need to go to self-test. We're going to go to all continuous memory DTCs. And this is going to pull up all the list of all the codes. And then we're going to hit clear. So this will pull up so many more codes than you'll ever see on anything else. All right, and there's all the memory DCCs, and now we're going to come over here.
The base of your Milwaukee there.
I'm going to hit clear. So it's going to clear all the module, all the codes, and then it's going to go back through and it's going to read all the codes. And then from here, we're going to start it. Not sure what's going to happen because this guy had a tune on here. Hopefully everything goes well. So this is where you would go and look and see if you have any hard faults still. So we got a bunch of permanent codes. Don't diagnose those. And we're good to go. So now we just need to start this thing up, make sure we're good to go. So if a new ABS module is put in, you have to do this IVD initialization sequence for the traction control. All right, here it is. I had to do the IVD initialization vehicle dynamics reset. That set the yaw rate sensor. We were good to go. I had to use the Ford IDS to set that. And now we got no codes. IPC is on. APIM is registering. All good to go. Man, that was a heck of a journey figuring out what was going on with this thing. Who would have thought an ABS module being failing could cause the entire network to go down, not be able to communicate with anything, and all the modules going dead. All right, there we go. All good to go. All green. Test drive is done. ABS module. Ended up having to do an IVD. I didn't realize that I had to do it with the factory scan tool, so I had to go get the IDS back in. And a bummer because I put it in and hooked it up, started the initialization, but it wasn't starting, and the IDS was messed up, so I had to like reboot it. It was lunchtime. With the lunch, came back, boom, did it. Yaw rate sensor relearned. Everything's good. Truck is going home. This can problem is fixed. On to the next one. After watching this video, I hope that diagnosing a CAN system or a no communication issue is a little bit easier, as this can be a very complicated process. And unfortunately, when you deal with these things, it's hours and hours and hours. The way I came up with the time was I looked up what the APIM was and I knew that's the direction I was going, and it was an hour. The IPC was an hour. And so you're going to go and you're going to jump to like 3 hours or 5 hours because you need to make sure you have enough time to go take everything apart, find the problem, and you also still have to put it back together. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. See you guys next time.